Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to show you how to create a MySQL database container from Docker and then connect it to a Spring Boot Java API server. As you can see on the screen here, I have my application.properties file open, and we have Flyway added to this for database migration. Under the URL here, put localhost 3306 because that's the port that MySQL defaults to. And of course, our name for this project is earthdb. You can name the database whatever you want. You'll also have to make sure the data source URL is also set the same settings. We have it set for autoconnect true as well, but that's not needed for this demonstration. So you may want to have Docker desktop set up. If not, it's not a big deal, but generally Docker desktop is going to have a lot of good information. You can see all the different containers that are up and running or stopped and any logs and things really quickly. But what we're going to do now is go into PowerShell, running Windows Terminal. And we're going to do this first thing is create a volume. So we take this, change that transparencies. So we're going to go here and start by doing the Docker volume. So let's do that. We'll say Docker volume create, and we'll give it a name. I'm just going to do mysql-data, and that creates Docker volume. Docker volumes are great because it allows for some data persistency in the container. So even if you spin down the container, you can attach another container later to the same data volume and have that data. So next, I'm just going to copy this and I'll go through it after I get through it all. We're going to go through here. So if you want to run a container, say Docker run -d is detach mode. It basically lets it run in the background. -v is your volume, so we're attaching it to the MySQL data, and we're going to make a /data folder that it's attached to. Port, this is your port. You have your host and the communication port, I believe. So they are. I just kept both as 3306 for simplicity. The name of the SQL container, you can name it whatever you want. Something significant is great. So I put MySQL -container. -e is an environment variable. We have mysql-root-pswd, which is just root, which is what we're using for our database, just to keep things quick and easy. We also have database name, which is earthdb, and the base MySQL password root as well. Just kept both of those. And then you want to give it what kind of image you want to pull in. So in this case, we're pulling in the MySQL image, and it's going to be the latest. If you want, I can actually tag it with latest, but it should just pull in the latest one. Do that, run, and see it didn't find anything locally. So it actually pulled from Docker Hub and will get that image set up on the system, and then it'll attach it to the container. So we're just gonna watch this go really quick. It shouldn't take too long. Get all those pieces set up. While that's happening, I'll discuss some things. So they have other data binding examples here. So this is kind of what I did, but you can set a different path and where you want to bind it. Var-lib MySQL and the root path for the container. So you could create something like this, and say it's connected to that. And here's source, target. This is a mounting It's similar, but slightly different. Once that's done, we're going to execute it. We're going to run. We're going to basically open up a terminal or bash terminal inside of. Now we say docker exec, which is just execute, -it, and we do mysql -container, what we called it up here, and then bash, so that's the bash shell that we're going to be using. Do that, it opens up, as you can see, root and the name of the actual container. What's cool is if you go here, you'll see it here running by port, and they have a CLI here, which is the same thing as what we just did at exec IT. Then there's the whole container name, and I believe it takes the first so many characters. Look at that. You got up to B83, so as you can see, it goes up to about here. And it does -bin -sh, but the bash is the same thing. We can run the same commands in here if we would like, but I'm just going to run it here because I already have it open. Nice to see everything. You can always check the host if you want to see what the host IP is, but localhost is the standard localhost across most systems. You want to actually get the IP of the container. It's kind of neat to see. Anyways, let's try it from here. What we're going to do is we're going to do the next command where we're going to check if MySQL is actually running. So you can say MySQL, give it a username, root, and a password. You can actually type in the password if you want in the -p or allow it to prompt. If you keep these blank, it'll prompt for both. And then optionally, you can actually add the database so you can go straight into it. We'll start with that just to show you what to do. Here's a CLI, so if I do mysql-u, if I kept that blank, should ask for everything. Okay. Let's do mysql-u root. Then it asks for the password, which is root. Now it's running MySQL. We pulled that image in and attached it to the container, and since we're inside the container, it knows how to deal with MySQL command, which is great because you don't have to worry about environment variables or anything. It's just running. Inside here now we can say something like show databases, and you get list all the databases. And there's earthdb that we set up. Name doesn't have anything inside of it right now. And we just do Maven Spring Boot run. We're in the right folder, it should load up, and we can verify that it connects running this, and so far it looks good. And if it errored out, it would have done so now, but it shows here that it started application in 7 seconds, so it is running. Now what's nice is if we go in here, and there's multiple ways of doing this next part. First, you can say, definitely want to use the DB. If we had logged in, and after the -p space, and then given it the name of the database, we wouldn't have to do that command. We're going to do use earthdb, then show tables, and then describe tables, or desk for short. So we'll say use earthdb, and we can say show tables. And right there, you can see that the Flyway schema history was added, so Flyway worked correctly. We added our own main and host data from the Flyway migrations. So now if we want to say, we want to look at one of those, let's say desk host data. And there's all the columns for that one. Desk main, and there's columns for that one. So it shows that it is working and it is connected and running. What's nice about all this, let's exit out of that, exit out of this, exit out of the shell. If we were to say, I don't know, I don't want this connection anymore. All right, so if we were to nuke this, for some reason, we're just like, I'm done. Kill that. Back in here. I'll clear just so we can start fresh. We'll go up to our previous one. Let's just rebuild it. Or maybe we want to change the name. That's fine too. Let's just rebuild it. And exec back into it. Do something like mysql again. Dash u root. I'm going to do dash p root as well. With spaces there, but it's not necessary. And then we'll just say we want to go straight into earthdb. And there we are. And then if we do show tables, it's empty because we haven't ran our application. Unfortunately, it's not going to save it the same way. I think there's a issue with the way that the volume connection is set up. So looking into, but it seems like it doesn't actually save all the tables into that volume, or the way that MySQL is saving its tables. I need to connect it up to, or I need to use the mounting, the data folder, and push that table into the data folder. But otherwise, now we do that again. There's all the tables, and we can describe main again, and we have everything set up. So that's basically it for containers. It's pretty straightforward. They do have a pretty easy setup for getting Docker desktop up and running on your system. It's really straightforward and easy to do. I just figured I'd show you guys how to set up a SQL container with MySQL inside of it and connecting it to this. And what's nice is because it has its own little localhost variable, or because it has its own localhost port, we don't need to worry about any kind of weird IP addresses or anything here. And MySQL defaults to this right here, 3306. So our connection strings don't need to change at all. We can do all of our development, and then when we're done, we can just scrub this and post it somewhere else with the production values, with these values set in production environment to the correct hosting values when that happens. But this way, if we ever wanted to change to say Postgres, you could just change Postgres here, load up a Postgres container, change the port that Postgres would want, which I believe was like 5432, and go that route. It's really quick and easy to set everything up. I hope this helps everybody, and have a good day.